I've got to say, it feels pretty good to be a PC gamer right now. The platform seems to be growing faster than ever. We get all of the games. Indie titles usually hit the PC first. We're getting the Xbox games, of course. Sony titles too, even though they come to the platform a little slower than I'd like. That may be changing, we'll talk about that in a second. But things aren't going so well for the console providers. I thought it was just Xbox, we all thought it was disaster for Phil Spencer and the Xbox crowd, with more news coming on that tomorrow during the podcast, the business update. But apparently, things aren't so rosy in PlayStation land either. I thought this would be a time for celebration for Sony. Xbox are floundering, it's not looking good. Games like Starfield might be coming to the PS5. But really, it seems like it's just going bad for anyone except Nintendo on the console front. And that is courtesy of some sort of update that Sony did on their financials. Basically, they had a much slower quarter than expected, and this tweet kind of goes into that, where it mentions that PS5 hardware sales in October-December over the quarter fell short of its plan for 25 million sales. Now, they actually had to revise their target. They were aiming for 25 million PS5 sold. They've had to revise that down to 21 million. So they're basically missing 4 million sales of the PS5. They haven't happened. Now, what I find interesting is a lot of people have understandably been laughing at Xbox, but they've been panicking about this Sony news. They've either been covering it up, blocking their ears, and pretending this isn't happening. Sony's incredible. There's nothing going wrong for them. This must be propaganda or something. That sort of talk, or just going into full-blown panic mode. They're scared out of their minds that Sony might not be doing as well as people think. It is interesting because you would think they have kind of cornered the market. Sure, there's the Nintendo Switch, but it's not really going for the same demographic. You would have thought the PS5, it's just continuing from the success of the PS4 to be doing really well, right? But that clearly isn't happening. The PS5, it has sold far less units than the PS4 had sold at the same time in its lifespan. And I'd probably put that down to just not enough new games being released by Sony. They've released a few, like Forbidden West, there was Ratchet & Clank, there was God of War Ragnarok, but most of them also came to the PS4, and a lot of people who probably early on in the PS5 life cycle, where it was hard to get your hands on one, there was, a chip shortage or something? You just couldn't buy one very early on when it released, when the hype was there. And maybe when the PS5 was finally in stock, people thought, well, what's the point? I've already got my PS4, most of the games are on it. I'll wait to get a PS5 when there's really some must-play games, beyond like the Demon's Souls remake, maybe Spider-Man 2, which I just feel like the hype wasn't quite there, like with the first one. I remember I kept hearing about Spider-Man for the PS4, how it's incredible, oh, you've got to play it, and I thought, nah, I'm just going to wait until it comes to PC. I'll do that. And that right there brings us to the next part of this story, because Sony clearly aren't selling as many PS5s as they'd like. They're certainly not going to put their games on Xbox. Why would they? No one's buying an Xbox. No one really cares. They don't need to do that. It's probably not going to increase their revenue. So they're looking more and more at the PC. Now, they've already obviously been releasing games for the PC, but they've been doing it very late. They've taken this staged approach where rather than releasing games day one for PS5 and day one for the PC, releasing them on Steam, they've had this weird thing which I've never liked, which is we'll wait a year or two, we'll release the game there like they did with, say, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, and they've kind of treated PC players like second-class citizens. They've said, all right, we've released the original game even though it was years late. However, you're going to have to buy a PS5 if you want to play the sequels to those games on release. It always rubbed me the wrong way. I always just kind of thought, well, if that's how you're going to treat me, I'm just not going to care. Maybe I'll just wait until there's a sale. I'm certainly not going to support you by buying this 2 or 3 year old game for $70 at release like you're charging. Because, I mean, you've probably still got it on PS4 at a discount. It's probably in the bargain bin by now, $20, $30 for maybe God of War. But you want me to pay $70 years later just because you've released it on PC? piss off. That was kind of my approach. And yeah, I've played some of these games now, but I wasn't there for the Steam release. I waited, and I think a lot of people waited. The sales numbers reflect that. We had that huge leak of PlayStation's financials. The PC ports, they've been profitable for them. They have sold, but I think they could sell a lot better if they release the games day one. And they seem to somewhat agree with me, because Sony president Hiroki Totuki, I probably got that wrong, says he wants to go aggressive in improving margins by growing first party with multi-platform PlayStation. Now, it's sneaky that they've got this news out there. Maybe it's a coincidence, but while Xbox is in total shambles, they seem to have quietly announced this, and they might think, while everyone's laughing at Xbox, we'll mention that we've got similar plans, at least for PC, putting our games there, and maybe no one will notice because they're too busy melting down about Xbox. So it's not a bad plan, because I haven't seen a lot of reporting on this, not nearly as much as with Xbox, probably because they've been a bit more vague, but he basically says, in the past, we wanted to popularize console and the first-party titles. Main purpose was to make the console popular. It is true, but there is a synergy to it. So if you have strong first-party content, not only with our console, but also other platforms like computers, that's the key part. So they're really pushing computer, PC. First party can be grown with multi-platform, and that can help operating profit to improve. So reading between the lines here, it's obviously not confirmed, but I don't know why else he would say this. It seems like they are thinking more and more about getting their games on PC day one. And I really think if revenue's a problem, they have to do that, because PS5 sales, they're slowing down. They've acknowledged that with their financial reporting. The only way they're going to grow, it's not going to be on Xbox, it's got to be on the PC. Maybe the Switch too, if it can handle some of these new games that they're making. I feel that's the only way that they grow. And there are a lot of people on PC. If you respect us, if you respect the open platform PC gamers, then they will buy the games day one. They just don't want to be treated like fools paying $70 for your Ratchet & Clank game that you released 3 years ago that I could buy on a PS5 for cheap. You want to charge us maximum dollars, $70. It's not about the money either. I hear that thrown around all the time. Oh, you just can't afford a PS5. You don't want to buy the games. Obviously not a PC. If we're totally real, it's more expensive. You get some good deals on Steam and stuff, but being a PC gamer, I'd say, if I'm being realistic, it's more expensive than console. But it's about the convenience. It's about some of the other benefits. Again, the open platform. I like having more choice about where to buy the games. I think that can create competition. As much as I hate Epic, I don't think it's the worst thing that competitors sort of pop up to Steam. As much as I love Steam, it could be in 5, 10, 20 years that we're remembering the glory days and we're going, remember when Steam was incredible before it all went to shit because Gabe left or something bad happened to him? We could be in that situation one day. So I like that PC can at least potentially be that open platform. A good example is Final Fantasy 16. Now, if that had have released on Steam day one, I don't believe I'm alone in thinking I would have just purchased that day one. I probably wouldn't have thought about it too much. It looked okay. It looked fairly interesting. I probably would have given it a chance. But now, months and months have passed. Reception to the game, I think it's gotten worse over time. I don't think I would buy it day one whenever they finally release it. I'm going to be waiting for a sale if I play it at all. So the PC sales numbers, they're going to be lost for the most part. I'm sure it'll still sell, but it's not going to be millions and millions upon millions like they could have gotten day one. I think Sony know that. They see it with other games like Forbidden West, where, yeah, reception was okay, but people saw it as more of the same. Is it going to do gangbusters numbers on Steam? Probably not. People know the game. They're talking about the game. They're telling us PC gamers that it's probably not the best thing ever. So if Sony want to capture the hype and really maximize sales, they've got to release on PC day one. Now, of course, the Sony fans are not happy, a bit like the Xbox fans over recent days where they've realized their platform is dying. It's obviously not as dire for Sony. The PS5 isn't going anywhere, but they want to continue growing. We know how it works with these businesses. The profit line has to keep going up. It can't stagnate. They're never going to accept that. So they have to look elsewhere to grow their revenue, which, again, it's funny because that's kind of what Xbox are doing. People just never expected it might be happening with Sony so soon. But I'm on this post. It's the same one we were looking at, that Twitter post that mentions that PS5 games could be coming to other platforms. It's going to change multi-platform, a bit of a focus there. But here on the PS5 Reddit, they've removed the post. So it seems like the moderators or people on here, they were not too happy. They got a bit salty about this. Rather than discuss it, they decided to deny reality and no one can see it. Again, reporting hasn't been too prominent on this. I've sort of had to look for this compared to the Xbox news. So I find that a bit funny, and there's definitely a bit of cope going on as well. For instance, here, there's a thread about it on a gaming forum, and someone here mentions, well, you don't need to put the games on PC day one. Here's what you need to do. Reduce the budget of AAA games. I can agree with that. I think it's ridiculous. My tinfoil hat theory is that AAA publishers like Sony, like EA, Ubisoft, they love really pushing the graphics and the novelty of that because they know that's what indie devs can't compete with. And if indie games and AAA games were on the exact same level graphically, people would realize that a lot of AAA games are totally dumbed down. They treat you like you're a stupid idiot. And they'd realize, hang on, these indie games are quite creative. Let's play those. Because they really market the graphics and push that on your everyday person who's not researching games and all this crap, it basically conditions them into thinking if a game's got good graphics, it means the game's great, which isn't really true. So for that reason, I don't know if they can actually reduce those budgets drastically. Maybe they can sort of keep graphics where they are now, not keep expanding, games get even more expensive. There surely has to be a limit. The buck has to stop somewhere, come on. But I don't think they're going to regress with graphics or anything like that. They're probably not going to just start making AA games and that's it, because the graphics are their only real point of difference to get people excited. The gameplay, it's most of the PS5 games, or at least PS4 as well, we're talking Horizon Zero Dawn, some of the other ones I've mentioned, they kind of just play like generic Ubisoft games. They're not that bad. They're obviously better presentation. There's a bit more creativity put into them, but I don't think they're that far off. I don't think it's a huge stretch to say that, but I think a lot of Sony fans pretend that the big Sony titles, oh, they're the most incredible games ever, so good. I don't really think that. I've played a lot of them on PC. They're okay, but they're not making me to rush out and buy a PS5 to play the sequel to a God of War or to a Horizon, as I mentioned, and the proof is in the numbers. The PS5's not selling that well, suggesting they maybe don't have the must-plays that they thought they did. This person goes on, don't do day one release, keep it like Rockstar Games. Get the fuck out of here. Rockstar, I hate their attitude with a passion. I spoke about some of these publishers treating PC gamers like second-class citizens. Rockstar are the absolute worst for it. I kind of hope that GTA 6 underperforms just so they have to stop that nonsense. The amount of defenders of that who were like, well, just buy a console. Again, that argument, you can't afford a console to play GTA 6. No, I just don't care. If you don't release it on PC day one, I'm just not going to play it. I'm not going to give a shit. GTA for me is probably not a must play, especially when you focus on the online mode, on selling microtransaction shark cards. I just don't give a shit. I'd like to play through the story, but I'm not going to go out of my way. So I'm just going to be a little bit annoyed. I'm then going to move on. But in terms of the principle of it, it's bad for gaming. This sort of crap where we try and keep games off PC or off certain platforms in some instances, just so we can force you to double dip or buy our $500 box in the PS5's case, just so you can access our game. It's like a $500 entry pass. I don't want this PS5. It's of no value to me, but you try and force me to buy it if I want to access your games. It's no good, and I'm glad it's not working, that they're perhaps having to release their games on PC day one. Again, it's not confirmed, but I don't think they would say this unless plans were shifting a little bit. And given it's happening with Xbox, this could just be the case across the board. It really could be happening with Sony. This person mentions, if possible, bring PSN Plus to PC platform with old games. If Game Pass works on PC, why not PSN Plus? I don't think Game Pass is working that well on PC. No one cares about it. Games on Steam, there's usually good sales because, again, open platform on PC, they've got to be a little bit more competitive. That's what I find. No one's going to be subscribing to PSN Plus. Get out of here with that. Bloodborne remake on PC. I can agree with this one. That's a solid point for once. Then you get this person. Maybe a shorter window to PC. which I wouldn't agree with either in the favor of untapped revenue. Gain revenue elsewhere, but lose your foundation at home. It just devalues the brand like their competitor is doing. Again, these people who've been laughing at Xbox, but the second precious Sony doing it, oh, it's not funny anymore, it's a big crisis, oh, don't devalue your brand. I find this humorous because it's actually just all good for gaming. It's entertaining for me because it's a good thing really for everyone. Again, PC and open platform, if games come to it, it just opens this up. It's a much better thing. And when it happens day one, it just avoids all of this bullshit of people being loyal to the multi-billion-dollar company who doesn't give a toss about you. They're just trying to take as much money, fleece as much off you as possible. Stop defending them in the grand scheme. If you like Sony products, if you like Sony games, that's fine, but don't do their PR work for them. It's a good thing if they're coming to PC. Does it devalue their brand? I don't really think so. They've obviously realized that relying on console sales and bringing people in that way, it's not going to work anymore if they are going to get a huge return on investment on their AAA products. This isn't going to kill console gaming. That's not what this is about. Oh, they're going to come to PC and everyone's going to game on PC. I'm realistic. I love playing on PC, but there's tons of people who do not want to touch a computer. They don't want to have to install programs, muck around with anything. I mean, I think that PC gaming's easier than ever. It's not difficult to use Steam. How much trouble can it really be? But there are people who will just want a game on their TV and they're going to want to use a console. For that reason, Sony, PS5, it's here to stay. They'll keep getting their 30% on third-party sales every time someone buys FIFA or whatever the normie game of the time is. They'll keep getting their money. It's fine. However, they'll start to get some more money off these titles that they're producing themselves. The next Uncharted, whatever it is, it sounds like it's coming to PC day one, and that's really a win for everyone. You can keep gaming on PlayStation. You can stop pretending like I've got to protect this. It's so precious that we've got the PlayStation, and no one can play these games unless they buy one. No one gives a toss about that anymore. Stop it with the console wars. And a final one here, they're going to have to find a balance. They just can't go full Xbox, never go full Xbox. I'm not sure about day and date, but their games will come to PC a lot faster. Just give it up. I truly believe the games will eventually come to PC day one. It might not be instant. I think they're going to do just like with Xbox. They're not going to pull the band-aid off and just come out and announce every Sony game is coming to PC day one. They're not going to do it, but it sounds like a real shift in the console market where they've realized they just can't tie games to their individual consoles anymore. A lot of people are kind of locked in as well. It doesn't matter what you're doing game-wise on your consoles. Some people, they're dedicated to Xbox. They're not going to shift unless it gets closed down, which could happen one day. Same for Sony. People who are playing on there, they probably will never move to PC because they are locked in, and it's the same for people like myself. We've got our libraries on Steam, GOG. We are not in a rush to go out and buy a PS5. We'll happily wait. But if they do that, as Sony are finding out, it means you will get lower sales for, say, a Spider-Man 2 when it comes to PC because the hype's worn off. People don't care. They're going to wait for a sale. So to maximize their revenue, it sounds like they're going to put the games on Steam day one. I think it's a good thing. It's good to see the console wars slowly dying out, it seems like. But in the meantime, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of meltdowns and plenty to laugh at. So thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.